this English reading and listening lesson, we'll review a news article on how AI might be using more energy than all of Ireland. As we read the article, you'll learn advanced vocabulary, correct grammar, and natural pronunciation. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Our headline, AI might be using more energy than all of Ireland. So here they could simply say then Ireland. Notice that pronunciation, Ireland, Ireland. They added all of just to emphasize the entirety. So grammatically, all of is optional. It's not required, but it does slightly change the meaning by emphasizing or making it sound more dramatic. Now let's look at here. Might is what type of word? A modal of possibility. So they're not stating this as a fact. Otherwise, they would use just the verb to be. AI is consuming. So your verb to be would become the verb conjugated. Now, in this case, the verb be is conjugated because might is our modal. So what comes next? The base verb, which is why you see it as be here. It's the base verb. And then this is always in the ing form. Don't worry about taking notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's keep reading. Artificial intelligence, of course, this was the AI. Artificial intelligence, such as ChatGPT, could soon consume as much energy as a country the size of Ireland or the Netherlands. Notice this here. We have as much something energy as. A lot of students forget this second as. So you need as, much or many. Energy is uncountable. So that's why you have much. If it were countable, then you would say many, then the something, and then you need another as. And you're making a comparison. How much energy ChatGPT consumes, uses, consumes, same word. How much energy Ireland or the Netherlands consumes. And notice also we have the. This is because Netherlands is an exception. Notice that S on the end as well, Netherlands. And you need the, which is an exception because normally countries, cities, towns don't have the. The Netherlands, the United States, the United Kingdom. Here's an example using many. Remember, we need a regular noun that is countable, singular, plural. The word query. Singular, one query, two queries. So you would add the S for plural. So you can say ChatGPT receives as many queries as Google. I don't know if this is true. It's just an example. So we have the queries ChatGPT receives, the queries Google receives, and they're the same. Now, another sentence structure, you could say, I love watching your lessons as much as Netflix. So maybe you say that to me, Jennifer, I love watching your English lessons as much as I love watching Netflix. But you don't have to repeat the I love watching in the second part because it's obvious. I love watching your English lessons, your lessons with the news as much as Netflix. Now that would mean even, but you could also say, I love watching your lessons less than Netflix or more than Netflix. So you can absolutely say that as well. But if you love watching my lessons as much as Netflix because they're entertaining, but also educational, put that's me, put that's me in the comments, and that would make me so happy. Let's keep reading here. We didn't read this part. A new study has warned. So notice the use of the present perfect. This is a completed past action. We could say 6 months ago, a new study was released. So it is a completed past action at a specific time in the past. But the use of the present perfect, remember, present perfect is to connect the past to the present. So it's saying that there's a completed past action with a result, a consequence, an impact on the present. So what is that? Well, of course, we have to think about our energy consumption and the impact of that. A new study has warned. But you could equally say a new study warned. You could put it in the past simple grammatically as well. Let's keep reading. Every time you prompt ChatGPT to generate an image. So if you prompt, this is the verb to prompt. This is used with artificial intelligence. So it's a very common verb now, which simply means you ask ChatGPT or you request ChatGPT to generate an image. So the verb choice is prompt. But prompt is also used as a noun, a prompt. So you will see it as a noun, and it's just viewing the action as a thing. So there are many prompts. That would be viewing it as a thing. Many people prompted ChatGPT. That's the action. So as the verb, it can be conjugated. In this case, it's conjugated in what verb tense? The present simple. We know that because we have our keyword every time. So it's a routine action. And then the example I just gave, people prompted, that was in the past simple. Prompted. Let's review that again. Every time you prompt ChatGPT to generate an image or an explanation, the host company's servers run thousands of calculations to deliver the goods. In this case, the goods, you might not be familiar with seeing an S on the word good, but it is commonly used as a noun, the goods. I gave her the goods. The goods represents something, just whatever the context is. So in this case, the something is the image that you requested or the explanation that you requested. That is the goods. So the goods is whatever the thing is that is based on the context. The goods is an idiom, and that's important because of two things. You have to use the exact sentence structure. So the idiom is the goods, plural. It's not the good or a good or just goods. It's the goods. That's the idiom. And remember, idioms have non-literal meanings. So you can't look at this word, oh, I'm good, how are you, and understand the meaning. So just memorize that the goods represents the thing or the things that you expect based on the context.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
This process uses vast amounts of energy. Vast, you're probably familiar with this, or can understand it based on context. It means a large amount, but simply saying vast amounts sounds so much more dramatic than saying large amounts of energy or a lot of energy, vast amounts of energy. To keep the servers from overheating, so notice here, to keep someone or something from, and then because from is a preposition, we need our verb in ing. From overheating. So that's why we have this verb in ing. I could say to keep my students from getting bored. So here the expression is to get bored, which means to become bored. So to go from, oh, I'm so interested to bored. That's the transition to get bored, to become bored. But get is more everyday, become sounds slightly more formal. Now, I can replace the word keep with prevent, and the meaning is exactly the same. Prevent sounds a little more formal, keep sounds more everyday. So remember, to keep or prevent someone or something, in this case, my students, you. In the article, it was the servers, a something, the preposition from, and then your verb in ing, from getting bored. Now, I need the next part of the sentence. I choose interesting articles. So this is how I prevent you from getting bored. I choose interesting articles like this one, and hopefully my strategy works. Now, you can also say this paperwork, so something is keeping me from practicing my presentation. So this paperwork is keeping me from practicing my presentation. You could even use a someone. You could say, my boss is keeping me from practicing my presentation. So keep is your verb. It's in the present continuous because it's taking place right now. If you were to provide more than one as a subject, then you would have to change this to are keeping. But because I have one singular subject, it is keeping me. You could use someone else, us, from doing something. Now, you can also just use a noun. So if the verb isn't required, you could just say from my presentation, because the people who you're talking to know that the action is practicing or preparing or reviewing, whatever it is. So this is a really useful sentence structure. I recommend practicing it and getting comfortable with it. Now, to keep the servers from overheating, when you add over to an action, it means there's too much of that action. So heating too much, overheating. Water systems are often used to absorb the heat and carry it off, so it being carry the heat off, to cooling towers to evaporate. So carry it off to cooling towers means that it will transport it or take it to cooling towers to evaporate. A single query. So remember we talked about query. This can be singular or plural. A single query. You could replace that with prompt as well. So in that case, because we have a, we know it's a noun, and a single, you could replace that with one query, one prompt. Using a single maybe just emphasizes it more. It sounds more dramatic than saying one, but it would be the same. A single query on ChatGPT can consume more than a half liter of fresh water to cool servers. So this to cool servers is the action. In order to cool servers, but then you don't need that in order. So it looks like the infinitive, but it's just the action in order to cool servers. Estimates report that it also consumes 10 times as much electricity as, because we have as much. So even before you read anymore, you should know that there's another as coming. As much electricity. Again, electricity is uncountable. So that's why we have much, not many. As much electricity as a conventional Google search. But here we have 10 times as much electricity. So it isn't the same. It's ChatGPT. If this were as much electricity as, it would be the same. But this is 10 times as much electricity as a conventional Google search. So by adding that 10 times, you have to times it by 10. This is the amount of electricity consumed or used by ChatGPT. And here's Google. Let's review this sentence. ChatGPT uses, so of course ChatGPT is third person singular, it, so that's why we have the S here. It uses, you could say consumes as well. It's the same. Uses is a little more everyday. Consume sounds more technical or a little more formal. ChatGPT uses 10 times. So this is the short way of saying 10 times. You can spell out times or you can just put an X, but make sure the X isn't like that. It has to be attached to the number 10 times. And if I see this in writing like I do right now, I would still verbalize it as the word times with an S. You need that S. ChatGPT uses 10 times more electricity than a Google search. Because we're not just saying then Google, because it sounds like Google as a company in all of its operations, but it's something specific, a Google search, which is a search on the website Google, the search engine Google. Now here they said conventional, which just means a regular Google search. So whatever you put into the Google search bar, JForrest English, videos, that's a conventional, a regular Google search. So then a Google search. So we have more than, of course, you could also say less than. So that would be the sentence structure. Let's continue. And generating an image is equivalent to charging a smartphone. So equivalent means it's the same. So the amount of power used to generate an image is the same amount of power used to charge a smartphone. And notice here, is equivalent to, we have this verb in ing because to is a preposition with the expression. So something is equivalent to something. Now that something can be a noun or a gerund. In this case, because we want an action, we have a gerund. Now, the sentence starts with a gerund because it's making a general statement, generating an image. So doing something. When you practice this expression, you can follow the sentence structure. So you start with either a gerund verb or a noun as your subject, and then you have to be equivalent to. Okay? But this is your verb that you need to conjugate. So if you had two actions or two things, you would need are equivalent. But in this case, we have one. So it's is equivalent. So your verb is what you need to conjugate. This does not change. And then you need a gerund or a noun. It could be two actions or two things. And the meaning is X, whatever the first gerund or noun is that represents X, is the same as Y. So that's a great sentence structure to practice. Let's continue. To put this into perspective, this is a great phrase as well because you can share information, for example, talking about the energy consumption of ChatGPT. But if you want someone to easily understand the consequence or the meaning, you can use this phrase and then you're going to provide a specific example or something very easy to understand to explain the point you just made. To put this into perspective, this represents the energy consumption of ChatGPT. To put this into perspective, ChatGPT prompts. So here, this is the something, the prompts. The prompts consume. They consume. And remember, the prompts, those are just the requests. So every time you say, ask a question or say generate an image, that's a prompt. So ChatGPT prompts, they consume enough electricity daily to power the Empire State Building for a year and a half. So it may not be that easy to understand the energy consumption the way it was explained here in the more technical way. So they're providing an easy to understand example. Enough electricity daily to power the Empire State Building. So notice this is a proper title, is a proper noun. And that's why the first letter is capitalized, because it's a proper name. The name of the building is the Empire State Building. I know that building is part of the name because it's capitalized. If it were just the word building as the structure, not part of the name, it wouldn't be capitalized. So that is part of the name. But remember, we have daily and then to power the building for a year and a half. So that is supposed to give you an image in your head to help you understand it, to put this into perspective. This is a great phrase to have in your vocabulary. It will make you sound very advanced if you use it correctly. And globally, ChatGPT uses around 39.16 million gallons of water daily. So here, 39.16 million gallons of water daily. So gallons is the quantifier. Million does not have the S. It's gallons that has the S of water daily. Now, you could also then just use this expression, but because they already did, they're not using it again. But this is, when I see this, I don't really have an image in my mind. So that's what they're doing here. They're providing an image in your mind. So you could have a period, say, to put this into perspective, but then you need a full sentence. So you need a subject, a verb, and an object. Because here, this wouldn't be a full sentence. So we'll change that, but let's review this first. The equivalent, so this number is the equivalent, which means the same, of everyone in Taiwan flushing their toilet at once. So flush is the action of pushing down on the lever, or maybe it's just a button, pushing the button that removes the waste in the toilet. Remember, I said we could use our phrase, so I just copied this to put this into perspective, this being the statistic they just shared. Now, I copied this exactly and I pasted it right here, but we need a full sentence, which is a subject, a verb, and an object. So if you want, you can pause this video and think of how you can take this and turn it into a full sentence if you want. Now, I'll do that for you. To put this into perspective, we need a subject. This is the subject. The word this. And this represents, again, the statistic. Now we need a verb. This is the equivalent of everyone in Taiwan flushing their toilet at once. So all you would need to add is these two words. This is, and then this is a full clause, and it completes this phrase, because this phrase is optional. So if you delete it, the information remaining needs to be grammatically correct. And right now, this is grammatically correct. Without what I highlighted, it is not grammatically correct. Let's keep reading. The water AI companies use to cool their servers is the same fresh water used for drinking, cooking, and washing, and to put out fires. Okay, so notice here, the author used for. Now, because for is a preposition, we need your verb in ing for drinking, for cooking, and for washing. Now, because they're listing items and they all use the preposition for, you don't need to repeat that. You don't have to say for drinking, for cooking, and for washing. So you can get rid of for and it will be there for all of them. But that's why it's in ing, because of this preposition for. But then for some reason, they changed it to the infinitive for the phrasal verb to put out fires. So to put out a fire, they just used fires in the plural form because they're talking about fires in general. To put out a fire, that would be a specific fire. Now, fires is the verb or the noun in general. Okay. But to put out, that's the phrasal verb form of extinguish. So if you have a fire and you throw water on it, you're doing that to extinguish, to put out the fire. So the phrasal verb is to put out and the regular verb is extinguish. But it is, aside from firefighters, the everyday use is to say to put out the fire. Now, because the author switched to the infinitive, you would not repeat the word for. The same fresh water used, because remember I said for all of these verbs, although it's not written, you would repeat it for drinking, for cooking, and for washing, and to put out fire. So that's why this is in the infinitive and these are in the ing. There's no reason why. You could simply have all of these in the infinitive or all of these in the ing. So you would just get rid of to and put this in the ing. Efforts to improve the efficiency of AI models are already underway. So this is a common expression. Efforts are underway. Now, efforts to do something. So here you can say to, and in this context is to improve the efficiency of AI models. You could add on energy efficiency if you want to be more specific, because efficiency is a general term and this article is talking about energy specifically. So you could say the energy efficiency as well. So if efforts are underway, it means they're already doing it. And whatever they're doing is based on the context here. Now, this expression uses efforts in the plural. So it's not common to say effort is underway to do something. I almost always hear it as the plural. Efforts are underway. And efforts represents action or work. And remember, it simply means it has started. And there's something specific. That something specific is identified here. Efforts are underway to reduce traffic congestion in the city. So traffic congestion just represents a traffic jam. There's so much traffic. Now, notice here, I kept efforts are underway together. That is common, but as you saw here, you can separate it with the something, and the something is in the infinitive form. So efforts to improve the efficiency, efforts to reduce traffic congestion in the city. But you have to make sure that everything either comes after or comes in the middle. Because let's say I wanted to divide it like we have here. I can't say efforts to reduce traffic congestion are underway in the city, because this in the city belongs to this part. So I would put are underway at the very end. Now, because sentences can get long and sometimes you might be confused about what part is part of the clause or part of the next idea, I recommend keeping it together because it's always correct together. And then you're not going to confuse the word order if you choose to divide it. Efforts to improve the efficiency of AI models are already underway. With companies focusing on optimizing, so here you focus on something. Now, because on is a preposition, if you have an action, that needs to be in the ing. Focusing on optimizing hardware, improving algorithms, this is in the ing, just like we saw up here with these INGs, it's the same reason. It's because it's focusing on optimizing, focusing on improving, and focusing on considering renewable energy sources. So all of this uses focusing on, they're just not repeating it. So optimizing hardware, improving algorithms, and considering renewable energy sources to offset their carbon footprint. So to offset, it means to try to reduce the effect of something specific. So let's say I use 10 watts of electricity to record this video? I have no idea what 10 watts of electricity is, just being honest. So if I use 10 watts, I might then later on in the day, if I'm trying to be very energy efficient, maybe I'll turn off all the lights in my house to try to offset the amount of energy I just used. So what do I need to do? I just need to turn off the lights in my house until I reach 10 watts, because then I've offset it. So I'm just trying to eliminate what I just did, or the amount I just consumed in this case. Now, this is a verb, to offset, but the main part of the verb is set. And you may know that set is an irregular conjugation. So in the past simple, it's still set. So it's the time reference that will make it obvious that it's in the past. Yesterday, I offset my energy consumption by turning off all my lights. Advances in energy efficient chips. So remember I said they could add the word energy because efficiency is a more general term. It's not specific to the energy you use. So that's what they did here. Advances in energy efficient chips, data center cooling techniques, and software optimization may help reduce energy demand over time. For now, though, it's important to recognize the environmental cost of our digital interactions. So for now, though, this is a very casual use of the word though. Native speakers will commonly add though in midpoint of a sentence or even at the end of a sentence. And though is a casual form of although. So although as a word and though is used for a contrast, because here they're talking about how there have been advances in reducing their carbon footprint or offsetting their carbon footprint. But now they're saying we still need to recognize our environmental cost. So that's the contrast. We've reduced it. That's positive. We need to still consider it and do more. That's the negative. So there's a contrast though there. And that's the use of the word though. And having it in this midpoint the way it is, and also using though instead of although, just sounds more casual. For now, though, it's important to recognize the environmental cost of our digital interactions. While each individual search or prompt might seem negligible, so negligible here means insignificant, not important, but they're talking about the cost of it, but the not financial cost, environmental cost. So it could be the amount of fresh water consumed. That's the cost, the environmental cost, not a dollar value. So negligible means insignificant or not important. So extremely small that it's not important. But it's saying while each search or prompt might seem negligible, collectively, which means when you take all the individual ones and you add them together, so collectively, they contribute to significant energy use and carbon emissions. So of course, the word emissions, that is, the verb form is emit, and cars emit carbon dioxide. So they produce it. It goes into the air. You see it from the back of the car, right? So emissions is just referring to it as the noun form. And that's the end of the article. So now I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. AI might be using more energy than all of Ireland. Artificial intelligence, such as ChatGPT, could soon consume as much energy as a country the size of Ireland or the Netherlands, a new study has warned. Every time you prompt ChatGPT to generate an image or an explanation, the host company's servers run thousands of calculations to deliver the goods. The process uses vast amounts of energy. To keep the servers from overheating, water systems are often used to absorb the heat and carry it off to cooling towers to evaporate. A single query on ChatGPT can consume more than a half liter of fresh water to cool servers. Estimates report that it also consumes 10 times as much electricity as a conventional Google search, and generating an image is equivalent to charging a smartphone. To put this into perspective, ChatGPT prompts consume enough electricity daily to power the Empire State Building for a year and a half. And globally, ChatGPT uses around 39.16 million gallons of water daily, the equivalent of everyone in Taiwan flushing their toilet at once. The water AI companies use to cool their servers is the same fresh water used for drinking, cooking, and washing, and to put out fires. Efforts to improve the efficiency of AI models are already underway, with companies focusing on optimizing hardware, improving algorithms, and considering renewable energy sources to offset their carbon footprint. Advances in energy-efficient chips, data center cooling techniques, and software optimization may help reduce energy demand over time. For now, though, it's important to recognize the environmental cost of our digital interactions. While each individual search or prompt might seem negligible, collectively they contribute to significant energy use and carbon emissions.
Do you want to keep learning English with the news? If you do, put let's go, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.